Cool. Where did you first learn the graphic design?
Graphic design, oh my gosh. It's so funny because 10 plus years ago I remember being like a little kid and playing in MS Paint and, not Google Docs, PowerPoint, right? And just like playing with colors and text and all that stuff. And I didn't know that I could ever get a career doing anything like that. And I remember one year I was gifted a like a 2007 Apple MacBook from my dad. And he's like, "Oh, this is mine, but I know that this is like," he was seeing me work on like this really crappy PC that would, crash every hour. And he's like, "Yeah, like go ahead, like be creative." And so from there, I remember like saving up enough money to finally buy like Photoshop CS3, which like super old, version of it, and just playing around and like I was drawing with a mouse for a while and just trying to like find ways to like break things. And I just remember feeling so like inspired. And so like, this is what I want to do. But when you're that age, you never know that that could be a career. In school, it's like, oh yeah, like you can be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. They never teach you about the creative parts of life.
Yeah. I wonder how we could break that down. I feel like that's such a common um, statement that people say, "Oh, I never knew that that could be a job."
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting thing that kids I think often feel that way. And I wonder what that is and how we could break that down so that more people could be empowered to do these things that they love to do.
Absolutely. And I mean, not that, well, actually, with this whole remote thing, I think it is something that we can solve sooner than later. Because I've heard this saying, and it's a really sad saying, but throughout our 12 years of solid education, they're not teaching you to be an entrepreneur. They're not teaching you to code. They're not teaching you to design. They're teaching you, unfortunately, habits and ways to work for other people. Which, I mean, it's not a bad thing at all to work for other people, but there's nowhere in there where they teach you how to be independent in the options of being entrepreneurial until you hit college.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Or even simply to look at things in that perspective, right? That you don't even necessarily have to go out on your own to do it, but
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
finding those ways to, collaborate and explore different career paths. I mean, I come from a very different, I mean, my degree is actually in the theater arts, and I was in the theater for many, many years. And there were lots of people that told me not to go that direction, right? And I would not be where I am today if it weren't for the things that I learned going through that experience. That, like, learning in the theater, I learned how to be a better manager. I learned how to be a better entrepreneur. I learned how to run a business in a way that was lean and fast and collaborative. And I think that there are ways to kind of connect with people in those mm, industries like game design, right? And maybe it's becoming more common, but I do still think there's probably a lot of people out there that don't think of it as a career.
No, not at all. And, on that topic of game design, I remember, being 18 and trying to figure out what to do with my life. And I did entertain the thought of game design. I even like went and toured a couple game design schools. And I just had so many people along the way tell me like, "Oh, are you like sure you want to do that? It's like long hours. You don't make that much money." And then like touring the schools, I would have loved to go to one of those schools, but school is expensive, like tuition at those art schools are like looking at like six digits a year. And, at 18, you don't have that kind of money. So you're kind of like, maybe I should just follow what society's telling me. But I mean, coming from your theater background and, doing what your heart led you to do, like obviously you are where you are and you just have that courage to take the step and move forward. And I think that's what's so powerful.
Yeah, and I think the more that we can empower more people to feel like they can do that, that they can make that leap. And I think a lot of it is kind of redefining education so that college and universities is that they're not the only way. And that there are lots of different ways that you can enter a field, so that we're breaking down those barriers so that it isn't just a big price tag that you have to get past.
Exactly, exactly. Because um, I do think that university, specifically for your colleges, when you're paying $70,000 tuition a year, I do view universities and design school as they're a privilege. Like either you're born into the lifestyle where you have the money to afford that, or you can get help from your parents. But the reality is, a lot of people don't have that help.
Right.
You know, myself being one of them, and so you're kind of just left to like learn how to survive. But
Right.
um,
So we
yeah.
need to create more on ramps for people to succeed, so that they can get the training that they need to get in the door, and that it doesn't have to be this barrier of money that allows people to get the education or the training that they need in order to do the career that they are dreaming of.
Right. 100%.
Well, that took a slight a side turn.